Our next speaker is Zineb Bazza, a PhD candidate, and her talk is entitled Lake Microbiome and Cyanobacteria Blooms.
Summer by the lake. What a very Canadian experience. And that's because Canada has a lot of lakes. In Quebec alone, we have over 800,000 lakes. Now imagine, you take a few days off of work, you get to the lake, and you're greeted by nasty, toxic rainwater. Unfortunately, that's a lot more common than we think. And if you've been around lakes quite often, then you know, and you've probably witnessed quite a few cyanobacterial blooms. Cyanobacteria are photoautotrophic bacteria, and they can form these little colonies or blooms, giving the appearance of the water to look like little pea soup or paint on the water surface. Now, why do we care about these blooms? Are they just ruining our holidays? Unfortunately, no. It's a little bit more complicated than that. In Canada alone, the economic impact of these cyanobacterial blooms can lead to $272 million losses. That's just the economic impact. Now, cyanobacterial blooms are also toxic to humans and animals, and they can cause quite an important ecological damage. Well, cyanobacteria have been studied for quite a bit now, and we know that the main cause for these blooms is eutrophication. But over the last few years, we have had increased reports of cyanobacterial blooms. And to really study why this is happening can be really costly and time-consuming. For example, when the government of Canada tries to follow up on cyanobacterial blooms, they pick a few lakes, they study a few water samples over a few couple of years. That's not enough, but we can't really expect scientists to sample all the lakes at all times. And this is where my thesis comes in. So part of my thesis really focuses on determining the factors that influence these cyanobacterial blooms using citizen science. So we have developed this robust protocol where we give these little toolkits and protocols to citizens that are just living around a certain lake. And these volunteers really help us by giving us water samples and filling out these data forms with their observations and their measurements. These samples are also sent to us on a weekly basis. So this year, for example, from May to October, I have received over 200 samples from one state lake. And taking all of this data will really allow me to notice any trends that are happening in and around the lake. And it will also help me pinpoint why we have had these cyanobacterial blooms that happened over the sampling season. And finally, this data that we are collecting will also help us scale up this project as we are planning on having more lakes and more volunteers in the coming years. So this project has not only helped with citizen engagement, but also helped really solidify the connections between citizens and scientists and allows us to work together for cleaner and safer lakes.